This is the Swarm and Shoot football show with me, Manny Matsakis, as we kick off Season 2. We've been fortunate because we've had a few good interviews. We bring Lynn Groll on here, and he's able to interview some of our players. And we've got a lot coming up in this upcoming season. And this Swarm and Shoot football show is brought to you by Big B Coffee, which I've got right here. And it's right across campus here on North Clinton Street. Get the finest coffee beverages in Defiance, as well as great pastries and breakfast sandwiches to start off your day. And for most of us, we also get a pick-me-up in the afternoon by heading across the street to see Sue and everybody over at Big B Coffee. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, BSN Sports. Rob Held, Jim Garris, and the crew over here, the sales team, are the professionals that you definitely need to get in touch with to get your gear. All the DC gear. If you're a high school program out there listening to this, get in touch with these guys and they will help you out. They do a fantastic job with high schools, colleges, businesses in the area. Can get whatever type of apparel they need customized just for their business. So I know Rob does a great job for us. Jim is our rep that I see virtually every week of the year, and it's outstanding customer service.
Welcome back to the Swarm and Shoot football podcast, joined again by Defiance College head coach Manny Matsakis. We're going to talk about some Heartland Conference honors today, Coach. You had 11 guys honored this season, which is double the number from a couple years ago in 2019. So a good showing for you guys.
Well, it was good, and it was a lot better, showing that from a talent situation, we've got some guys that had increased the production on both sides of the ball, and I think that's exciting for us moving forward, and knowing that when you look at the whole group in and of itself, I mean, you're talking mostly underclassmen that'll be back in the fall. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Two guys that were first team all-conference, Thomas Coltrain, your linebackers as sophomore, and then Richard Pope, your freshman defensive lineman. Take me through what Thomas and Richard meant to this program this past season.
Well, I'd say this. When you think about Thomas right now, I mean, he didn't play the last two games because of the COVID deal.
Right.
Right. And when you look at playing only 5 out of 7 games, he still led us in tackles and all kinds of categories, and he was near the top in the conference with 5 games. So I mean, you look at that. I think other coaches realized it. Probably the last 2 teams we played are pretty happy he didn't play, because he runs everything for us on the defensive side of the ball. And he was such an integral part in our improvement after those first 2 games. And I'm fired up. And here's a sophomore, linebacker that actually this year doesn't even count on eligibility. So. You look at this, he actually has 3 more years to play, if you think of that. Right. So all these guys, have that potential to them. So I think Thomas Coltrain, I'm excited that he'll be back and have a great summer, and we'll be able to compete early in,
Side note on him, he's up there in Michigan where former Defiance College head coach Greg Bisconda is.
Oh, okay.
In Michigan.
Oh, okay. Well, how about that?
Coming a little full circle here from the last 20 years.
Wow, love it. Well, maybe he needs to listen to this and send us some more guys up there. Just go down the street and pick some guys up. But he is a very good player, and we're great to have him. And then you talked about Richard Pope. Here's a freshman defensive lineman from Florida. I know we went down there and Javon recruited him, and we were excited to get him here. And he just kept getting better and better and better every week. It was even a point where I think in the loss to Bluffton, he was defensive player of the week in the conference. So I mean that's significant, and he just kept getting better and started being a force that would pressure people and helped us, because as the defense was moving along, we got so much better at playing that cat coverage, where it's man-to-man coverage, and when you pressure and get the sacks and the tackles that Richard was able to get for us, it makes life easier for those guys on the back end. And we didn't have that early in the year, but here's a freshman that came along and really did a nice job for us. So we're excited about him, and and that's one of the key guys and the three guys in that front.
Yeah, your top two tacklers there.
Right there. Yeah. And and those the neat thing about these, you look around, I'm not the one voting for these.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to vote for your own guy. So I just put up the information. Here's the guys, and and to think that we've got this, moving into the off season is exciting.
Yeah, Thomas averaged almost 10 tackles per game in the 5 that he played with 49.
Yeah.
So that's
impressive.
Pretty good for just a second year guy.
Yeah.
Richard had seven sacks for you in 7 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's keep that rolling.
Yeah,
if he can get 10 next year, it'd be good.
You got some cats coming back up there. Up there in the front part of that defense. Second team: Tyshaun Freeman, Terry Geiger, Stephen Lucas, Eric Moultrie, another freshman, junior Rigo Villa, who was absolutely a dominant force there at nose guard for you, and then Izaiah Williams, your freshman superback.
Yeah. I mean, where do you start on that? I mean, I look at it, it's almost like you go a little bit by position, and you look at the offensive side. When both of your backs are second team all conference, I mean, that says something right there. And they're both freshmen, and they're different types of backs, and that's exciting. And and Zay didn't play the very last game, and he played sparingly, and the first 2 games, he hardly even saw the field. I think when we went to Mount St. Joe, we didn't even travel him. He didn't even didn't make the bus. So that gives you an idea of how much improvement. That Ernest Wilson, our superbacks coach, he's gotten. So he has helped this guy. Nazavious is a guy that keeps improving each week, and it's like there was talent, but. I really give Coach Wilson a lot of credit on developing him throughout the spring season. So we're excited. And then 1 week, I think it was the Anderson game, he came in and he was offensive player of the week in the conference, and then also he was on the national D3 team of the week. So I mean, it was great. There's a freshman who does that, and then Tyshaun Freeman, what can you say? Everybody in the conference knows who that guy is, and he played basically the last 3 games of the season with a loose MCL, and he was cleared by the doc, but it wasn't cleared for the kind of production he ended up. We didn't know. He wasn't even supposed to play at all against Bluffton. He just he put he took his stuff and said, "Hey, I'm cleared. I'm going to play at halftime." And I looked to Kevin Tong. He said, "Hey, Doc cleared him. He can go, but just be careful." He came out and he was a burst for us there. But he's a one-man wrecking crew. I mean, it really seeing him play was awesome. I think it gave us an identity. So between him and between Freeman and Williams, we've got 2 really good backs coming.
Right.
The funny thing is, because of COVID, they're both considered freshmen in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've got a lot of experience. So.
And before you go on with the rest of these guys on the second team, how do you find enough carries? I think that's what people are going to ask for Zay and Tyshaun down the road here.
Oh, there's some ways you do that. I mean, I've seen there's schools like Oklahoma does it, and. Lincoln Riley's a guy that was at Texas Tech when I was there, and I know a bunch of the coaches on the staff, we were in Lubbock at the same time, and I asked them, "What do you do?" Because they had, for a while they had a bunch, they had all these guys, and and one thing they do is they give guys full drives. And then rotate drives. The other thing is even though they're an air raid team, they're an air raid team that is geared up to run the football, which is the opposite of what some of these air raid teams are, like Nevada and Leach at Mississippi State and all that, where we're a run and shoot team, where we're like Oklahoma in that fashion. We run the ball to set up everything in the run and shoot passing game. So you're gonna have to stop the run against us, especially with those guys, and in a little while the guys we'll talk about up front. So I think you get them the ball that way. You also make sure that you start, now that they know what they're doing, you increase the tempo. You get more plays. Instead of we were down a bunch of guys, the last couple games, so we had to slow it down. Like against Bluffton, I don't know, we went slow, methodical. We knew it was going to be a game of drives and it'd be close, and we got 50-some plays, And then against Franklin, we sped it up and we got 80-some plays. So you can do that in this offense. And I think if you go more high-speed tempo, those guys will get more carries because there's more plays in the game. And then and I think that's how we're going to get them the ball. And ultimately, you got to keep them healthy all season long because they take shots. Yeah. So I've got meetings with BSN on what kind of Kevlar suits I can buy and whatever it takes to minimize their hits on their body. You know,
not to give too much away maybe for the future, but I'm kind of wondering any packages that you could foresee both those guys then.
You can. I used to do that in the Canadian League. But there you had 12 guys, so I could use 2 backs, So we have packages for that. This year, even though I was tempted at times to do that, the problem was there was not a game we had them both healthy at the same time. True. Yeah. So it was either one or the other. So that's the difficulty in that. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea, but right now I think they're going to get plenty of snaps, and each one can get better at something. Where you look at Tyshaun running, he's literally a wrecking crew. And then you look at Nazavious Williams, and you look at him, and it's like he's just a slasher. He makes big plays, very athletic. So I think for defenses to have to deal with both of those on the next drive being different than the previous drive can cause some problems, because I don't like to substitute if I don't have to, because that can lock the defense in so they can't substitute. So we like to keep the same guys on the field for drives, and I think having those guys makes me feel confident. We got a couple good backs there that can carry the weight.
Yeah. Carrying on with those other second team guys, Terry Geiger, a guy who has been instrumental in kind of getting this program back on the map.
Yeah, Terry's been a leader for us. He is our best receiver. He's another guy that went down to COVID. At the end of the year, so we lost him. So that limited us a little bit without his leadership out there. But he was very good in returning punts, and he had a 14-yard average returning punts. So. And he made some really big plays. I think the one I keep thinking about is the Manchester game. He cut that seam. It was beautiful. It was like it broke the game open. It went on to being the touchdown leading drive that we never gave up after that point. So I think his leadership among that young receiver group was vital, and he has helped us set the foundation with that group. And Coach Bolin obviously leaned on him to help out. And in the future, he's going to be a good coach. I know he's working on getting a graduate assistantship. He's been offered one that I know of for sure. And there's other coaches in our league, other coaches around in Ohio that are asking about Terry and his want to coach and get a master's degree. And I'm sure he'll be ultra successful in that.
Yeah. Stephen Lucas, a great safety for you.
Yeah, he's another guy that. He had 31 tackles, safety, 18 solos, and he was breaking up the ball, interceptions, forced fumbles. He got everybody lined up in the secondary. I think that, we lost him at the end there due to concussion. So he didn't play all the games. So that wasn't even a COVID issue. He had a concussion and he was done. And, especially when you're playing Franklin, who was one of the top passing teams in the league, we didn't have him out there. But I will say Coach Johnson got those other guys. They did a really nice job. But, Will Stevens a senior. That's another guy. So between Geiger and Lucas, those are a couple seniors we're going to miss.
Yeah.
And I think, Stevens a good player, and it really went from honorable mention to second team. And I think people in the conference knew that he was a key cog in the wheel with our secondary.
Eric Moultrie, a freshman lineman on the offensive side, and another rising kind of star for you guys down the road here.
Well, yeah, Moultrie is, he was first time we had an offensive lineman, there, second team. He was I think a vote away from first team right there. So, you don't run the ball the way we learned to run the ball this spring without help up front. And Eric's had some great games. I think his coming out party was actually when we played Hanover, in a game that was, we started to realize, this is who we are. We're a physical up front team that can be explosive, because he was, I'm not naming names, but they had a guy that's first team, defensive lineman, and he's got multiple pancakes throughout the day on that guy, But when you're carrying 360 pounds and you move like Eric does, you're going to get those. And I think Eric, for a freshman, did a fantastic job. And we're excited that he's going to be training hard this summer, come back in even better shape. And it's another BSN project. I got to find jerseys we got to get bigger jerseys for those offensive linemen. They just don't fit, and I keep looking out there. It's like, geez, you can only bring them over your shoulder pads. So we're going to have to get a seamstress. We're going to have to figure out ways to get these guys bigger NFL-style jerseys, because they're big boys, and they're very athletic. And what we ought to do is just let's take a look at. There's two other guys on that offensive line that had fantastic seasons as well, because they're all conference. Also, to a honorable mention, you look at Izaiah Robinson from Maumee, just up the road, and love him. He's been starting for a couple of years now, and he played the last half of the season with, basically something that looked at a RoboCop. He had this thing. You remember that movie, don't you?
Yeah. I'm not that young.
You
Coach.
get it, right? Yeah. Well, my players would. Okay, Iron Man. One of those like robotic-looking arms to cover his elbow, and he was in pain and the whole second half of the season. But he did make a bunch of plays, and then his roommate is our center, Tavon Carson-Payton, who another all-conference player. And that was the first time he's ever played center. He was a tackle the year before, starting every game for us a tackle. So he's very athletic. He moves in, helps make the calls, identifies the fronts, and Coach Shank has. You look at that, Coach Shank having three guys that are all conference, and being offensive linemen, which I think is the key to any team, is how good your offensive line plays. And that unit, as the season came along, anybody that watched those games could see those guys gelling and just getting better every week. And they had that lunch pail mentality, and they would roll up their sleeves and get to work. They don't need any glory, but this is the glory they get at the end of the year. They're all three all-conference guys, and with the two of the backs that are running behind them, both second team all-conference. So that says a lot for the offensive line.
Yeah. Shifting back to the second team, we forgot to talk about Rigo.
Yeah.
And what he did at kind of the center point of impact for you.
Well, I know this, the other D linemen, when you look at a Richard Pope and, we had Damon Thomas over there sometimes playing D-line, and Maurice Brewer. Mm-hmm. You look at those guys rolling in. The reason those other guys made plays is because Rigo's always dealing with double teams. Yeah. So if you take two guys on him at the nose tackle position, we get a one-on-one with a Richard Pope. We'll take that most every play. So I think even though he had great statistics, He made 26 tackles, 13 solos, 5 for a loss. He even had an interception, if you recall.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, a big athletic guy that keeps coming to me asking, after he saw what Tyshaun was doing, he says, I want to play some Superback too, And they're similar build, and he's athletic enough, honestly, to pull that off. I mean, he is a guy that I have toyed around with. Let's put him in the backfield and look at some stuff because he's great in the weight room. He's quick and he's very powerful. Very powerful. And I'll tell you what, there's a guy that from his freshman year to now, he's a junior right now, and you look at the improvement he's made, it's been significant. Here's a guy that his freshman year, I remember was my first year here, and there were seniors that wanted to kick him off the team because he wasn't a good, he was just, I don't know what the word is. It was like he was just, the defensive staff back then would send him to scout team because he'd always get in fights, and all this stuff. But now I'm realizing that he's just wired for collisions, and that's a different kind of guy. And that did set the tempo up front because he's very physical. And having a guy like Rigo around, I love him. I mean, I'll tell you what, he is now the ultimate teammate, a guy that, obviously, he is one of our leaders on this team on either side of the ball. And you can win with a guy like Rigo. There's no question. And we did. And I'm excited because I know he's going to come back in amazing shape after the summer.
Yeah. And we have one more guy to talk about, defensive, one of your cornerbacks, Derrell Walker, Maryland kid.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, Derrell Walker, I mean, there's another guy, Javon. Javon did a great job with the whole secondary, because there's other guys that I feel should have been in this, selection. And but, it gets to the point where coaches, maybe they know a number, they know a guy, but the thing about Derrell is that he did stand out, and it was his first season playing with us, and East Coast guy that came in and just kept getting better and better, made some big plays, big interceptions at key times that in the end zone, that stopped potential scoring drives and so forth. So I'm excited that we got him here. He's obviously a guy that will come back and play for us again in the fall. So I mean that's quite a group we just talked about there.
Yeah, and what 9 of the 11?
Yeah,
is that right? If my math is right, are back.
Yeah, and all of them have at least. Some have 3 years to play. Most of them have 3 more years to play. So it's like, that looks good. And now it's just, this is where we are today. The progress that has been made. Now we've got, the next phase on some other podcasts we'll talk about is what's next and so forth. So, I don't know. What do you think of this spring season from your perspective? You watch these games, and what would you see in it?
Vast improvement, and I don't know that you coaches knew what you had coming in when you start with Rose and Hanover, the 2 top teams in the league, and by week 3, you kind of had an identity, and if it wasn't for some missing some starters your last couple games, this season could have been drastically different in the win-loss column. Not that matters, I guess, because you've shown what you can do. I think the future's bright. You haven't had 9 guys coming back that have been all conference in this program for some time. I mean, you have to go back and look, but when you have 9 all conference guys coming back, that's a pretty good. That's what you see from the top echelon of this league.
And usually those guys at other teams, they're going to be seniors. We're talking about guys going to be freshmen again, sophomores.
You have 3 or 4 years of eligibility for these guys.
So it's exciting. I think it's fun. And probably what I'm most excited about is when all this COVID stuff goes away and in the fall, knock on wood, it all works out great, and people in town can come watch these guys play because we do have 6 home games. So I think it will be fantastic time to let's come on out, watch the Yellow Jackets, tailgate, enjoy Saturdays here in Defiance, because it's going to be a lot of fun watching these guys take the next step.
Yeah, for sure. What is the next step for this group, kind of this offseason? I think we touched on this a week ago, but what do they have to do this offseason to get you in that next?
Yeah, I think the next step is just getting their ducks in order to make sure they can be back, because you don't always know. It seems the good thing right now is there's only a few months and they're back. Yeah. Before you got 8 months until they come back, after a season. So there's a lot of things that can happen. So a lot of these guys, if it was academic things, most of them are eligible, if not all at this point. They just might have a few, maybe a summer class to take for credits, those kind of things. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is that is their appetite for competition is there. So I would expect that they're going to take Coach Shank's program, which we met with these guys this past week, and and shared with him. We handed him binders. Here's your workouts. This is what you want to do to improve. And I think that's also in the next phase, because the more prehab stuff you do, which can radically diminish injuries in the fall, the better we're going to be. I mean, we're not deep enough right now, and I don't think anybody short of a Mount Union at this level is deep enough to say, oh, we're going to lose 3 or 4 at every position, and then the other guy just steps up. So I think we need to have a solid 2 deep and great special teams, and that can make the difference this fall. And I think these guys are gunning for another significant improvement in the fall. So they know what to do. We've had the meetings, and we feel good that we are going to secure most of our best players will be back, and a whole bunch of other guys we've been developing.
Yeah, and you have the foundation set where you don't have to teach every fall camp. I mean, the last 3 years you've had to teach. Yeah, now you have guys. Yeah. Hey, young guy, this is what you do. You don't have to, and your staff doesn't have to harp on that, because they can follow the lead of these guys that are coming back, which, as we know in football, is a huge part of it.
Yeah, no question. No, that's good. So next week we'll visit a little bit about our coaching plan, what we're about to do in the upcoming weeks in May and early June, and we look forward to getting back with everybody for that one.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay. I want to thank you for joining us on the Swarm and Shoot Football Show. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe in iTunes. Give us a rating, comment on the show. If you'd like to get all kinds of updates, go to our website at swarmandshoot.com, where you will be up to date on all of our podcasts with audio and YouTube versions on there as well. All right. See feature articles on our current players and alumni, along with updates of what's going on in the program. Take a minute and subscribe with your email to receive these regular alerts every time we update the website.